Myself, Professor Pawar VK from Department of Geography, J.A.T Art, Science and Commerce College for Women, Malegaon. On behalf of this video presentation, I welcome you all. Dear students, today we will deal with the topic composition of atmosphere. The atmosphere is composed of three elements such as the gases, water vapor and dust particles. Now in details we will see one by one. Number one, the gases. Broadly speaking, air is a mechanical mixture of gases because nearly 99% of the volume of atmosphere is composed of various gases. Nitrogen and oxygen are the most predominant gases, and together they form 99% of the pure dry air of the atmosphere. The major gases that form the bulk of the volume of dry air are as follows. Now in details we will see the gases and their volume in the free atmospheric air. Number one is nitrogen. By volume it is 78.088%. Second gas is oxygen. By volume it is 20.949%. Third gas is oxygen. By volume it is 0.930%. Fourth gas is carbon dioxide. It is 0.030%. In total, all these gases contribute 99.997%. The remaining gases of the atmosphere are neon, helium, krypton, xenon, hydrogen, methane and nitrous oxide. Together they form the remaining 0.003% of the volume of air. The lighter gases, especially hydrogen and helium, become more and more abundant in the upper atmosphere, while heavier gases predominate in the lower section. For example, carbon dioxide is virtually absent above an altitude of 20 kilometers. Nitrogen is the most predominant gas and it makes up more than 78% of the volume of the atmosphere. Nitrogen serves to dilute the oxygen and thus makes it suitable to the needs of living organisms. It is also essential for the growth of plants. Oxygen is essential for animal life. It combines easily with other chemical elements and is also essential for combustion. Carbon dioxide is constantly produced through different agents and is being continually added to the air. It is exhaled by animals and is also produced by the natural decay of organic elements in the soil and the burning of fossil fuels. If it were allowed to accumulate in the atmosphere, animal life on the earth would soon come to an end. Fortunately, there is a dynamic equilibrium in nature to regulate the proportion of carbon dioxide. Green plants use carbon dioxide from the atmosphere for photosynthesis and release oxygen, and thus an equilibrium between these two gases is prescribed. Though the proportion of carbon dioxide is very small in the atmosphere, it is one of the important gases. It absorbs the heat given off by the sun and the earth and thus warms the lower atmosphere. Recently, it has been observed that the proportion of carbon dioxide is gradually rising in the atmosphere due to the combustion of vast quantities of coal, oil and natural gas. At the same time, deforestation is carried out in many parts of the world, and plants with green coloring matter are thus gradually disappearing. This will surely result in an increase in the proportion of carbon dioxide in near future and ultimately in average atmospheric temperature rise. As we know that because of the deforestation which is being continued since last 2-3 decades, the temperature ranges throughout the world seem to be increasing. Ozone is concentrated mainly in the atmosphere. It is essential for the very existence of animal life. The ultraviolet rays of the sun are absorbed by the ozone, and thus it protects the earth from such harmful rays. These rays destroy all exposed bacteria and can severely burn animal tissues. Because of the exposure, these animals, the tissues can be severely burned. Second component of the atmosphere is water vapor. This is highly variable constituent of the atmosphere. Through the process of evaporation, it is being continually added in the atmosphere. It mixes freely with the air and is invisible. The proportion of water vapor varies from very small amounts to a maximum of up to 4% under humid conditions near the earth's surface. Its proportion is greater in coastal areas and it decreases towards the interior parts of the continents. Water vapor is supplied to the atmosphere through the evaporation that takes place from the surface of the earth. Through the evaporation that takes place from the surface of the water, from swampy areas and from the transpiration from the plants, it is transferred. The proportion of water vapor decreases with an altitude and it is virtually absent about 10 to 12 kilometers from the surface of the earth. Thus, it is concentrated only in the troposphere. Even at lower altitudes, its proportion changes from place to place according to the period of the day and the season. Though the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere is small, it is an important element for the following reasons. First reason is the heat utilized for evaporation is stored in the water vapor itself. Thus, the heat from the surface of the earth is transferred to the air through water vapor and is also stored in it. This is known as a latent heat. Second, clouds are formed due to the condensation of water vapor. Clouds reflect a large amount of insolation back into the atmosphere. Number third, water vapor is able to absorb heat and acts as an insulation blanket, thus preventing the rapid loss of heat from the earth's surface. Number four, the formation of weather elements in the atmosphere like clouds, mist, fog, frost, rain and snow is due solely to the presence of water vapor. Now, the next element, that is the third element of the composition of atmosphere, is dust particles. The troposphere contains innumerable dust particles. This third component of the atmosphere is also highly variable. The dust particles are microscopic and hence are not visible to the naked eyes. Due to their small size and weight, they float in air. They are of two types. Now, we will see the types of dust particles. Dust particles are classified into two groups such as organic and inorganic dust particles. The organic dust particles include microscopic seeds of the plants, pollen grains of flowers, and hanging bacteria in the air. Inorganic dust particles, which constitute rock particles, salt particles, volcanic ash, smoke particles, and meteoric dust. The organic dust particles, the proportion of these particles is smaller than that of inorganic dust particles. Tiny seeds, pollen grains from the plants, and countless bacteria of all sorts are found everywhere in the air. Second, inorganic dust particles. The proportion of these particles in the air is larger. Dust particles are mainly derived from the physical weathering of rocks, and these particles are carried to different areas by the blowing winds. Waves dash against the rocky coasts and form spray. Evaporation takes place directly from the tiny droplets of spray water, and the tiny salt particles left behind are added in the atmosphere. The proportion of these particles is greater in the coastal areas. When volcanic ash is thrown out from the volcanic vent, it mixes in the atmosphere. The proportion of these particles is higher in the volcanic belt. Factory chimneys constantly pour out smoke particles, and naturally they are found in larger numbers in the industrial areas than in the countrysides or in villages. When the meteors enter the upper layers of atmosphere or air, they burn due to the heat of friction, and these burnt particles are added to the atmosphere. Atkin, the scientist, has invented an instrument to count dust particles. According to his conclusions, the proportion of dust particles is highly variable. They are found on a large scale in industrial cities than in the countrysides. Their proportion decreases with increase in elevation. Now, the dust particles are an important component of atmosphere because their presence is an essence in the atmosphere. So, how they are very useful in the atmosphere, we will see one by one. Number one, the dust particles act as tiny mirrors in the air and deflect some of the incoming sun rays from the main beam, and thus diffuse the light in all directions. Number two, the sky appears blue only because of these dust particles. Number third, the red colors of sunrise and sunset, as well as the occurrence of twilight, is due to their existence. Some of the dust particles are hygroscopic and they provide centers around which the condensation of water vapor takes place.